The idea of this presentation is to give you the sort of technical background and the technical information required to construct and price up a customer quote. That's the sort of the main thrust of the presentation. We have other bits and pieces in here as well. We'll look briefly at the environment and the architecture just to sort of summarize what we looked at yesterday, covering what's licensable and what isn't licensable, and then looking at some pricing examples. We cover a few other bits and pieces like the installation services that we offer, and there's a couple of slides for reference on the specifications required for the server, for the client, and for the mobile clients, all for reference really. As yesterday, the presentation is available on the website, and it has full speaker notes associated with it as well, so you can use it for your own resource, send it to whoever you want to. No copywriting on it at all. So product overview, no real need to sort of get too heavily into this. We covered most of this yesterday. The benefits of GoConnect from a user perspective, and the speaker notes sort of cover that quite well. That's a good slide to use when presenting GoConnect to your potential clients in terms of what are they going to get, what's the benefit that they're going to get from GoConnect. And that's a nice diagram and another useful slide to use just to pull those elements together, particularly if the client has maybe seen the product a year ago, for example. It's obviously moved on a great deal. 2.4 is introduced, the Mac client is introduced, the Attendant, and it's also thrown in the mobile clients as well. So the product has grown quite significantly in the last year. So that's a kind of a handy diagram to use. It's a fairly simplified diagram because chances are there might be multiple sites involved in that. There could be multiple Attendant, multiple operators in there as well. But it's kind of a handy slide to use. From the environment point of view, we've actually got this other set of slides as well that you may want to use if you want to put a little bit more detail on it. If your technical guys want to put some sort of more detail on this, it's essentially the same as the previous diagram, but slightly more sort of intimidating. So basically what you have here is you've got your PC client and you've got your Mac client on the site network talking to potentially a CRM or some other sort of application where contact information may be stored. You've got the Active Directory in the frame now, and we'll talk about the Active Directory integration in a moment. And they all talk, the clients all talk to the GoConnect server, and it's the server that's then talking to the Panasonic PBX over CSTA. So that's a kind of on-site environment as far as GoConnect is concerned. We've got the Exchange integration in there as well. We're going to cover that. Then you throw in the mobile or the new mobile environment for Android and for iOS. The point to make on this slide is the fact that the data signal is required for things like presence and chat and the address book lookup. The bottom line on the mobile client, the way we pitch it, is very much that it's pretty much giving you what your PC or your Mac client has in terms of the functionality, the ability to dial from the address book, to look up the address book, and to check the presence of colleagues, either mobile colleagues or office-based colleagues. And it's also got functionality like dialing straight through to colleagues on extensions through the PBX. And then when you throw the final part of the diagram in, you've got your customers coming in. So customers coming in through the PBX on the mobile phone, then you've got the call overlay. So the mobile phone user has the same kind of caller identity and address book integration as the PC and the Mac clients, which is kind of nice. And obviously when you're calling customers, and we made this point yesterday, calling them through the PBX could potentially provide quite significant savings in mobile phone costs as you're making it sort of a local call through the PBX rather than through the mobile phone itself. So that's the kind of diagram that you might want to throw at clients if they want a little bit more detail on how the whole thing fits together. Far away, Tim.
When you're talking about calling through the PBX,
yep,
presumably you need a SIP client running on the mobile device?
There is the actual mobile app itself is free, downloadable from iTunes and the Google Store. As far as I'm aware, Javier will confirm this. There's nothing else additional required to that, Javier?
Okay, Tim, if we are talking about the Android device, you can have two options. You can install a soft phone and use it as your dialer device, or you can use the Android device and set up on the PBX the auto attendant or the DISA environment. I don't know if you are familiar with those concepts on the PBX, but if you set up the auto attendant, usually the mobile will call to that number to the PBX, and the PBX make the transfer to the others.
So that doesn't require anything additional.
That's like a trunk-to-trunk scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, the dial through.
You call into DISA, you might hear a recorded message. It might prompt you, yeah? You then dial a trunk.
It's more just for extensions. You can do it if you dial the extension of the voice message, but knowing that level, yeah. We have other software that we were testing, but it's not ready right now that do voicemail reading and those stuff. But in this concept, it's just this number that the dial through. Sorry.
So where would I get the soft phone from?
I think that Panasonic uses one that is called Media 5. So you can download from the I don't know, Google Play Store, or I don't know, Samsung Store now. No, Samsung. I think that, I don't know which Samsung store. Well, Play Store or Google Store. Is that one is for free, but you have to make the zip extension available in your PBX. That's the only thing that you have to do. And on our software, it's an option that you have to enable that is called soft phone mode. So every call is going through that.
I think on the technical side, that's covered in the technical presentation tomorrow, or on Thursday, isn't it? On the client, on the client section.
Okay, what's the scenario with iOS? Same thing.
No, iOS doesn't have the option for soft phone. It's not. You will see later. I don't know if feel like just showing the features for an iPhone today. No.
No, well, only it mentions that it's there, but I think it's in the client presentation on Thursday where Ben gets into the details.
On Thursday, you will be seeing that. But anyway, you can find on the website in GoConnect CRM all the differences or comparison chart between Android and iPhone. iPhone have less features because of his operating system.
Just let me understand, it's not actually the GoConnect application that's providing you with the functionality of dialing out on ISDN through the PBX, is it?
GoConnect mobile app give you that functionality to call to the DISA number. We set up on our server another client.
Understand. Fine.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, Phil, carry on.
No, that's fine. No, I'm learning still all the time, Tim, as well. So all the questions are good for me as well. Okay, specification-wise, I wasn't going to sort of dwell on these greatly, but they're here for your benefit when you're sort of talking to clients. One thing to sort of highlight, though, is what we define by being a single, a small site, as opposed to sort of medium multi-site. So we call a single site, up to 30 trunks, 500 calls an hour, 50 extensions and users. So that's sort of our term of what a single site might be. Multi-site, medium site, 150 trunks, 2,000 calls an hour and 400 extensions and users. So that's our kind of definition of that. And it's really the memory size of the server itself that would require more memory. The larger the site. As always, the more the better. Bottom line, though, it is Windows-based and it does support virtual environments like VMware and Hyper-V. We added this comment actually that it does actually work on a Windows domain controller, but there's some sort of support issues with Microsoft in that respect. So we've played it safe and basically said that it's not supported on a Windows domain controller. We know it works, but there's some support issues with that. So if clients ask about that, then that's the standard answer to provide them. Okay, so that's the server itself. The client, the PC client, is pretty standard. Most of the fairly recent versions of Windows are supported. And then on the Mac client, we've got the wonderfully named Snow Leopard and Lions and Mountain Lions, and accepted the various versions of OS X, most recent, are supported on that. You can see on the left-hand side, not huge amounts of memory and hard disk space required to support the client. I've actually got it running on my laptop. You saw that yesterday when we were running with it. The Attendant, though, that is Windows, again, only, but not on virtual environments. So the Attendant itself has to be running on a on a standard Windows server, but again, not great requirements in terms of memory and hard disk size. The Android version has just changed slightly. I think they've removed support now for Android 2.2, so we've upped that to sort of minimum version of 2.3 now, where most people are running sort of 3s and 4 versions of that. And then iOS Communicator for the iPhones is various versions of that supported as well, and the iPad. Okay, so that's the Attendant and the mobile side of things. Licensing-wise, these are all of it. Obviously, this has become a much more complicated presentation than it was a few months ago, because we've got lots more things which are now licensable, and some of them are PC only, some of them are Mac. So the idea of this sort of next phase of the presentation is just to give you an idea of how the licensing actually works, to then sort of build up to how you actually price up a customer quote. So, for example, the server side of things, the server itself doesn't require its own licensing. There isn't a server license, but all of the licensing for all of the other components of GoConnect actually sit on the server. So that's where all the licensing...
So is the server software effectively free, Phil?
Yeah, it's not a lot of use without anything to run with it, though. But yeah, essentially, you're not paying for the the server itself. But without other licenses, the server doesn't have any functionality really. Anyway, you can configure users, but there's no users with no user licenses. But then the licenses are then consumed based on the usage. So you might have concurrent licenses and you may have non-concurrent licenses depending on the other licensable component. And as we go through, you can see which ones are concurrent and which ones aren't. So for example, if you've got a 10-user license, then that sits on the server and your 10 users come in, talk to the server, and those licenses are consumed. And if it's non-concurrent, then, or if it's concurrent, then only 10 users can be on there at any given time. So everything is maintained on the server. So if we start with the desktop clients first of all, available as Office or CRM versions, and available either for the PC or the Mac. So it's like a four-way grid there. The actual sort of desktop clients, purchased in user bundles, 10s and 25s, etc., etc. We'll look at that when we do the pricing in a moment. Now, the same basic functionality, that demo that I showed you yesterday with all of the the pickup and the messaging and all that kind of stuff, that's available in both of the client versions and in both of the sort of the Office and CRM and PC and Mac. So from the PC side of things, first of all, both versions integrate into Outlook, Lotus Notes, and Google Contacts. Okay, then the CRM version is the version that you need for the integration into the other supported applications. All right, and then on the Mac side of things, then you have both versions integrate into the Apple Mac address book, the standard address book, and then the CRM version at the moment only integrates into Salesforce. I believe that may change in the future, but at the moment the integration side on the Mac side is limited to Salesforce. I think it's the enterprise version of Salesforce as well. So Mac is catching up, but obviously the PC client has more sort of features functionality-wise. That's your desktop clients. The way that you actually, on the client side, is to say which version it is that you want to use based on the licensing that may be available on the server. There's a simple option on the configuration. In fact, I've got it running here. So if I click on my configuration on the telephony side, I think it is, on the interface side, there's a mode option, and at the moment I'm set as Office, and I can set whether I want to use the CRM version or the Office version, and obviously that would then be limited based on the concurrency of how many other users currently logged on, currently asking to use the Office version or the CRM version, and as long as it's available, then I have access to that functionality.
Right.
So it's as simple as that.
If you've only bought Office licenses, will it still give you that drop down?
Say that again, sorry?
If you've only got Office licenses,
yep.
Will it still give you that drop down?
Is it grayed out, Javier, the CRM?
No, both of them will be there. Yeah, you can swap it.
They will both be there, even
It's
if,
not grayed down, yeah.
so even if you haven't got the licensing at all.
If you haven't bought any CRM licenses, you click on it, you're not going to go on, yeah?
No.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the client doesn't know until it's talking that it, what's actually available on there. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, but it's as simple as that for each of the individual clients. Just go in and set up which one is actually required. Client deployment. This is a good place to talk about the Active Directory synchronization. This has been added in the new iteration coming out on the the 1st of October 2.4 point something, probably level 20. The idea of this is that you can roll out GoConnect users directly from users that are already defined in the client's Active Directory, and that will obviously give you a pretty quick deployment of user accounts in large environments when you want to roll out a large number of user accounts. You can use the group policy to then deploy the actual software itself, the client software. The only thing that manually has to be set on the client side is the IP address of the GoConnect server. So that still has to be manually provided. So we can roll the client software out, but somebody then has to go in on the individual client and set the IP address of the GoConnect server. Another advantage of this is that anything that you've got in the Active Directory in terms of external numbers, DDI numbers, etc., department names, anything that you've got set up in the Active Directory is then available to add into the GoConnect user account address book as well. So that user's details gets proliferated through from the Active Directory. And you buy that in bundles in the same way. So depending on the number of Active Directory users that you want to roll out through this mechanism, then the client buys the appropriate bundle of user licenses for that. We think this is going to be quite useful in terms of fast deployment of large numbers of users. So that's the directory synchronization. On the mobile side, these slides are slightly brief, Tim, don't cover the detail that you're asking earlier, but basically they're non-concurrent. So each individual mobile user, be that Android or iOS, requires a license to cover their usage. The app itself, though, is absolutely free from Google Store or the iTunes Store. So the app itself doesn't cost anything to purchase. It's the licensing that's stored on the GoConnect server that controls the user's ability to use that app and the functionality within that app. Once they've got the app installed, then they have all the same sort of functionality that we talked about yesterday on the PC side. So that's the mobile side of things. The Attendant that we introduced yesterday, new in version 2.4. We've been tweaking with it already and adding some new functionality. We briefly covered the standalone version. That's the first of the two pictures. The unlikely scenario where you literally have one GoConnect user in the environment. It is the Attendant operator, and on their PC they have both the server component and the client Attendant component on their PC, and that PC talks directly to the Panasonic PBX. So they're doing call control and all that kind of stuff, but there are no other GoConnect users out there for them to presence check or to chat with, etc. An unlikely setup, but possibly required in some situations. The more likely scenario is the server version, where what you have is the operator runs their operator client. So they've got that nice operator console that I showed you yesterday for all of the call control and the extension viewing, etc., to allow them to carry out operator functions. And then in the environment you've then got a number of other GoConnect clients as well. So you may have, in fact that screen is actually wrong, I shouldn't say Attendant on there. So you've got your Mac and your PC clients out there as well using the GoConnect functionality. And they all talk, including the operator, to the GoConnect server. That's the far more likely setup in terms of using Attendant. But that in itself is a fairly simplified diagram because there may be multiple attendants. You might want more than one person to be the operator, either concurrently or non-concurrently, and there may be multiple sites involved in that as well. So it's a kind of simplified diagram of how it may actually exist. So that sort of leads us nicely into GoSite, and this is where it becomes applicable when you have multiple sites. They don't need to be physical sites necessarily. They probably are, but then don't necessarily need to be. But the definition of site is the actual Panasonic PBX itself. So the chances are it would be at a different physical location. This is the simplest version that there is of GoSite, where you have the server located at one site talking to a PBX, and you've got your users and your attendants at that site. But then elsewhere, on a second site, you have another PBX. You may have other users there. You will have other users there, possibly an attendant, etc. And it's this second site and any other subsequent sites that then require GoSite licensing. And what that's essentially allowing is the one GoConnect server to talk to the multiple Panasonic PBXs. Okay, so that's where GoSite becomes applicable. This is a couple of common sort of scenarios. So this is a non-Go site setup where you literally have 3 separate sites, 3 separate PBXs, and each Go Connect server is talking directly to their own PBX. In this environment, when you throw the users into the mix, what you then have is each site is purchasing and consuming the licenses for those users at that site. So when you're buying user bundles, it may be that you end up buying more than you necessarily need to cover the individual sort of groups of users at that particular site. There's no consolidation of that licensing. So you might have to buy if you've got 75 users, you may have to buy a 100 user license to cover those 75 users, even though you may have 25 users at one of the other sites that might want to use that functionality as well. That site, the second site, would also require the appropriate licensing. So there's no bundling together of the licensing, and there's also no core sharing of functionality either. So there's no looking at shared address books. Each one of these sites is using its own shared address book, and the present screen, for example, will only show the users set up at that particular site. So they're pretty much little islands on their own. They're fairly autonomous in that setup. So that's non-Go site. Whereas when you throw GoSite into the mix, same 3 PBXs, but you have one server, and you have GoSite licensing for the second and the third server, and then in this environment, what you then have is that the client licenses can then be consumed together. So if you have a total of 500 users, then you just buy the 500 user licensing that you require, and those users, wherever they may physically be, can then see shared presence, shared address book. So you're consolidating the functionality of Go Connect in the same way. Okay, so obviously depending on the clients you talk to, this may well be appropriate for them. To further add detail or confusion, depending which way you look at it, in the new iteration 2.4.XX coming out 1st of October, we're introducing the concept of federated servers. And the idea of that is that up to 6 servers can communicate with each other. And the way the licensing works is you actually buy a federated license for each of the servers that want to take part in that federation. The technical presentations tomorrow and Thursday show how that federation actually functions. But the idea of this is that it's very similar to the user experience is very similar to the multi-site. So where we were on the previous slide when we said all of the users accessing this have shared presence and shared address book, they do here as well, but the individual users are talking to their individually locally remote server in order to achieve that functionality. So there are sort of network connectivity issues in terms of the difference between this one, where the users may be physically located somewhere else, versus this one where they're probably more closely located to the server that they're talking to. But what this also does is you have the ability to have that that shared presence and that shared address book functionality. So it's kind of like a combination of this one in terms of the user experience, talking to their local server, the performance of that, with the functionality of having everybody talking to one server with that shared functionality of presence and chat and the address book sharing. So that's federated servers. There is a slide on the website, and we've thrown it in the presentation as well, that summarizes the difference between what you get functionality-wise with multi-site versus federation across one site or across multiple sites. And really there is only the one sort of red tick box or cross box in there, and it's to do with the way the shared address book works. So functionality-wise, it's very similar to multi-site in terms of the support of what you can actually do. While we're on the subject of multiple sites, that leads us sort of nicely into the Go Gateway environment as well. If you have any customers that use either OCS or Link, and those users want to take advantage of some of the telephony functions within those products, then Go Gateway can provide that functionality. It's something that sits on the Go Connect server, so it's something that's software that sits on the server, licensable on the server, but it's licensed in non-concurrent user bundles. So depending on the number of client users that want that Link or OCS functionality, then you buy the bundle that's appropriate for that. It may not be all of the users of that client, or even all of the Go Connect users. There may be a limited number that just want that Link or or OCS functionality. Okay, when we throw Go Gateway into the mix, this is when some of these diagrams start to become quite complex and overly complex in some respects. So in this first scenario, where we're back to a non-Go site environment, so we've got our separate 3 servers all talking to their separate PBX, and those servers might be talking to, or will be talking to, the link or OCS server. In this environment, no Go site required, but what you do have is Go Gateway installed on any of the servers where the local users want to have the OCS or the link functionality. Okay, so this is an environment, it's a Go Gateway environment, but a non-Go site environment. Throw Go site in the mix, and then it looks a little bit like this. So you have the Go site licensing for Site 2 and Site 3, and then you have Go Gateway on the one server. And the advantage of this is a bit similar to what we were talking about earlier. What you're now doing is you're bundling together the requirements of all the users in the environment, so then those licenses can be consumed by all of the users regardless of where they are, rather than here where you're buying separate Go Gateway bundles for the the physically separate groups of users. Okay, so when you start pricing up contracts, some of the questions you're asking is, do you want the link OCS functionality? How many sites involved? How many users? And you start to try and map out the the best way to sort of put that that quote together. We'll look at that in a couple of examples, in the pricing examples at the end. Okay, so let's Go Gateway. What's sort of similar to that, so we put the slide in at this particular point, is TAPI integration. If a client has a TAPI application and all they want is the outward TAPI dialing functionality, that is actually built into the Go Connect client licenses, so they don't need any additional functionality. That would work with the with the integration switched on. If they want full control of the phone, so full sort of TAPI functionality and within the application itself, and as long as it's a TAPI supported application, and we have a list of those applications that we support, then what they have then is a TAPI license, which actually replaces the Office and the CRM license. So they replace the client, the normal Office and CRM client, with a TAPI client. And the way that looks is the actual TAPI client runs on the user's PC, just like the PC or the Mac client, and that then talks to the to the TAPI application and handles all of the sort of TAPI requirements, primarily the sort of call shifting. So the incoming call handling and those kind of functionalities would require that TAPI client. Bottom line on this is, if you have a client that has a TAPI application into which they want to interface or interact with Go Connect, then talk to us, check whether or not it's a supported application, and then we can sort out the the TAPI licensing that might be required for that. And then one more thing to talk about on the integration side is the Exchange, the new Exchange Connect integration, again introduced in version iteration 2.4.xx, coming out on the 1st of October. What this allows is the Go Connect users' availability and status on the present screen to be updated based on the settings and the calendar dates that they have set in their Exchange calendar. Okay, now the sort of the detail on this is that this was actually possible within the standard Outlook integration, but for it to actually work and for the information to be updated, the user's Go Connect client had to be talking to the server, so their PC had to be on and they had to be set up with the Go Connect client. Whereas with the new integration, we're talking directly with the Exchange server itself, so we don't need interaction with the PC client itself, with their Outlook account itself. We're getting that information from the Exchange server, so it doesn't matter where they are and what their PC status is. Their availability to their colleagues will still be shown correctly based on whatever's in their calendar and whatever their settings are. The licensing for this is based again on user bundles, non-concurrent, so every user that wants this functionality would require a license to cover that, and we're covering at the moment Exchange versions 2.10 and 2.13. There's some extra detail in this as well. I've got these slides for you to sort of help to explain to clients. A bit of an intimidating slide, but the way that this works on the new Exchange calendar integration is that it intelligently interacts with the calendar settings that they've got, within their particular diary for today. So, for example, if they've got 2 appointments set to start at the same time, so they've got a generic one they've set up for staff appraisals for the whole day, and they've got the first of those appraisals with Janet at 8 o'clock, it will pick the shorter of the 2 appointments, and it will display the appraisal with Janet on the presence display on GoConnect. When the appointment with Janet finishes at 9, it will intelligently then switch to the generic staff appraisals as the display of what the availability is on the GoConnect presence screen. If they pick up an appointment which is a private appointment, it doesn't display dentist, it just displays appointment. Okay, so it intelligently sees that that's a private appointment but doesn't put dentist on there, it puts it as an appointment. And then when that one finishes, it then reverts back to the staff appraisals. And then when the appraisal with John kicks off at 11:30, then that then gets displayed. And then the lunch with John then gets displayed after that. So it intelligently sort of interacts with the different appointments and displays the things appropriately. Whereas on the standard Outlook integration, aside from the fact that it also requires the PC client to be up and running and talking to the server to function anyway, what happens here is it will randomly pick, if 2 appointments start at the same time, it will randomly pick one of those 2 appointments and display that, which is fine. What it doesn't do is on private appointments, it ignores private appointments altogether, so it will continue to just show whichever one of the 2 appointments that it picked at the beginning. If another one starts while one is already running, so if appointment 4 starts at 11:30, it won't switch to appraisal with John. It will continue to show staff appraisals. So the sort of the interaction with the individual appointments isn't as intelligent and as clever as it is with the Exchange calendar integration. So there's sort of 2 areas to that. One is the fact that it just doesn't work properly if the client's PC client isn't running, and the second one is that the actual appointments within the calendar, the displays of the appointment titles won't necessarily display appropriately on the present screen on the GoConnect side of things. So that's the calendar integration. I'm just going to pause there and just see if there's any questions before we get into the software assurance and some of the other bits and pieces. I see a few people have joined us since we first started. You've got Dario and Abhishek. So hi to you guys. Any questions at the moment?
Not so far. Just joined the meeting. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. Is that Dario?
A little bit late. Yes, it's Dario. Yes.
Okay. No problem, Dario. What Javier can do when we finish is he's going to be sending out the presentation. It has full speaker notes on it for you. So anything that you've missed, you can pick up from the speaker notes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
And we're doing this one again next week at 2 o'clock GMT. So if you wanted to join us next week, that's fine.
Okay.
Good to see you anyway, Dario.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for the late.
No problem.
Yeah. Always too many things to do, so I need the time.
Perfecto. Okay, and Abhishek as well. Hi, Abhishek. Okay, so we've basically finished the licensing of the individual components. Some other details to sort of cover now. Cheers, Abhishek. Is the software assurance. First of all, this was introduced at version 2.4, and basically what this allows is clients to have access to upgrades to the software and also to our technical support service. So from now on, without the software assurance, if a client tries to upgrade the software, so either a major upgrade, for example from 2.4 to 3.0, or a minor upgrade, as the example there, 232 to 240, that upgrade won't actually function properly. It won't work correctly without the software assurance licensing in place now. Before they could still get away with it, but now the upgrade won't take place. Iteration updates, and an iteration example is 231 to 232. They can still do iteration updates. They're the bug fix levels that we tend to bring out from time to time. The one I've mentioned for the 1st of October is rather unusual that it is an iteration upgrade. It's got some bug fixing in there, but it also has some new functionality. But that new functionality, like the Exchange integration, is licensable. So yes, they could put the iteration on, but they wouldn't have the functionality of those new features if they didn't also have the appropriate licensing for that. Okay, and the licensing for software assurance It's exactly the same as all of the other components. It's almost like another component of the product, and it's stored on the Go Connect server. When I show you the pricing examples, you'll see that you actually just build that in as if it's another component of the product. That's software assurance. The way you actually, or the way the client can actually purchase it, either through the distributor, if the distributors are selling software assurance, and not all of them are. So if that's the case, then they can come directly to Mondigo, and we will happily sell software assurance directly to the client if that's appropriate. The cost is a 1-year cover is 20% of the retail license price. So once you've worked out everything that they want, whether it's Office or CRM, and whether they want mobile, etc., then you apply software assurance on those components that they purchase, 20% for each of those components as well. Two possible options. The first 12 months is free if they register within the first 3 months, and then they start paying in year 2. Or if they purchase within the initial, at the time of the initial purchase, then they can purchase 2 years of the software assurance for the price of 1. So essentially, those two last bullets are the same thing. They can have 2 years worth of cover for the price of 1. There are some reinstatement fees if someone comes back after the 3-month period, but up until the end of this year, we're happily going to be selling software assurance to add it to existing installations without the client having to pay any sort of back fees, etc. So we're very keen on getting as many clients on board with software assurance as possible. And on the website that we're going to mention at the end, there is actually a document that outlines the way the software assurance works, what the benefits of it are, and that's been written so that you can then use that as a resource to send to clients to describe what software assurance is and how much it's going to cost them. That's a useful resource that you can use both internally and also for sending to clients. We offer 2 installation services that may be appropriate for you. We do a remote installation, and the idea of this is that we're providing remote support to one of your engineers that are attending site to maybe install and configure Go Connect. The way this normally works is on the remote installation session, we will create or set up 2 user PCs. The first one is usually the one that we set up. Takes a couple of hours to get that going first of all, and set up the the client, etc., and the server side of things. And then what we can then do is demonstrate the deployment to another client. So a second PC will actually set up in that same session. So hopefully at the end of that configuration, then your engineers are comfortable enough with then continuing the deployment and the rollout of the product. So that's the remote installation service. Obviously there's a cost involved in that. And we also have an on-site installation available at the moment only in the UK. And in that instance, a Mondigo engineer actually visits site to help deploy a number of PCs. There's a reasonable number of PCs here, obviously depending on the environment and the size of the environment and particular implications of how the actual environment is set up. But a fair number of PCs will be set up on that installation day. And the on-site visit, and in fact actually the remote installation visit, are usually bracketed with remote pre and post checks. So these aren't sort of one-off things and there's nothing else happening before or after. To make those 2 types of installation function properly and work correctly, then we make sure that all the preamble and the post checks are done appropriately. We actually have a slide on the prerequisites for doing an installation, and certain things are assumed. So we're assuming that the PBX itself is properly installed and running and functioning without any problems. We do require some form of on-site IT resource there because there could be implications with security, with firewalls, etc. So it's not something that we could do completely on our own, and even with a reseller engineer there tends to be a requirement for at least some form of local IT resource to be available. And we also have an installation preparation pack which needs to be completed beforehand. So if you want to use one of those installation services, then there's some sort of preamble involved in doing that to make sure that the actual service itself functions properly when we actually come to do it on the day. Some things are required for remote installation. So if you're getting into anything to do with advanced integration into applications, Any installation that involves having GoSite as part of the installation, any Go Gateway integrations as well, and anything to do with TAPI applications, as we talked about earlier. So those more advanced, potentially more troublesome integrations and installations, we do require that remote installation is part of that, so that we can make sure that that installation day goes ahead without any problems. Okay, so some quoting and pricing examples. Before we get into the examples, these are the kind of common questions. Hopefully this presentation has given you the sort of background that you need now in terms of talking to the client, finding out what they want, and then working out how you actually set that out as a quote for them based on the functionality. So these are the key questions that you're likely to ask a client when you start talking to them about GoConnect. So obviously you need to know, how many users are there involved, how many users might want the GoConnect functionality, like the call controls and the presence and the chat that we looked at in the sales presentation yesterday. Which applications do they want to integrate into? It could be that they're just interested in Outlook or Google Contacts or Lotus Notes, or it may be that they have some CRM application out there, Sage for example, or some other database, other application that we integrate into. So what kind of integration are they looking for, and is that all of the users or only a subset of the users that want to integrate into that special application? It may only be the accounts department, for example. We need to know if they're interested in the Attendant console. So that, do they look at thinking maybe an operator or one or more operators may be something that could be of interest to them, particularly if it's GoSite, multiple sites. There could be some mileage in having just the one operator, sort of looking after some of the calls. Do they have a mobile workforce? So are they interested in either the Android or the iOS mobile application, or is it purely Office-based? And obviously then the key question is it one site or is it multiple sites? So they're the kind of questions that you're going to be asking when you first start talking to a client. What we say is always include software assurance in the quote anyway. So when you prepare that quote out, as you'll see in a moment, always put the software assurance in there as well as a starting point. So 3 very simple examples. Example number 1. So we have a prospect that's looking to purchase through you a new Panasonic NCP. They want to be able to dial contacts from within Microsoft Outlook. Well, that's fine because that's included in the base Office client license. They want the call control and the presence that I showed you yesterday for 15 of their users. So that's good. Okay, so that's just 15 Office client licenses. And they want to have 2 concurrent attendant operators. So at any given time they want 2 people to be able to function as operators. So that's a pretty simple environment, and this would be what the quote would look like. So they wanted 15 users. They purchased a 10-user Office license and a 5-user Office license. They've purchased 2 attendant licenses, the server edition. So that's the one that has the client actually running on the operator PC, talking to the server, the GoConnect server. And then basically what we've done here is they're the 3 components that they've purchased. And then what you then have is the 20% software assurance cover for those 3 components. So pretty much every component that you put into your quote, you then cover that off with the software assurance. You cannot provide software assurance for only one component. So even though we're showing it as 3 separate lines, technically it could be shown as the one line as you present it to the client, as the total software assurance for that element. So you can't purchase software assurance just for GoConnect Office, but not for Attendant, for example. So that's example number 1. Example number 2, the customer's already got an NCP 500 installed. They've got 45 users in total that they want to have the basic GoConnect functionality, the call handling and the presence. All 45 of those users want to be able to dial and integrate through Outlook, but 15 of them in the accounts department need to integrate into Salesforce for the contact popping. Okay, so basically what that means is they want 30 Office licenses to cover just the ones looking at Outlook, and then they need 15 CRM client licenses for the special integration into Salesforce, and for those users to also then be able to use the Outlook side of things as well. So that's the licensing for that. You've got your 30 users and your 15 users, 30 Office, 15 CRMs, and then we've applied the software assurance across there as well. Okay, so no Attendant and no other functionality built into that. The third one, probably the most complicated one, this customer has two phone systems, two NCP phone systems, so straight away that's a one Go site license required for the second of those two sites. In total they got 65 users, 30 of them in the internal sales team want to integrate with Sugar CRM, so that's 30 CRM licenses required. 5 users in the accounts team want to integrate into Microsoft Dynamics, so that's 5 more CRM licenses because that's not covered in Office. 15 of the sales personnel are mobile, so they want to use the mobile app on the Android or the iOS. So even though, I should specify here, even though there is a separate app for the Android and the iOS, there is only one mobile client license, generically called Go Connect Mobile. So the 15 users, regardless of whether they want Android or iOS, and they will apply those on their own phones, you buy the licensing purely as a consolidated for all of the mobile requirements. And then they've got other 15 users that just want to use basic dialing presence on their PCs. In that case, that's just a 15 Office license. So you can see now how the questions that you're asking the client in terms of, what have they got, how many users, what do those users want to do, what do they want to interact with, are they mobile, are they Office-based, and how many sites. So those questions that we put up earlier are answered in the frame there. And then the quote, I'm not going to go through this completely, but there's the quote with all the individual elements, the user license bundles required for Office, for Go Site, for mobile, and then you've applied the software assurance for each one of those as well. You don't have to present this to the user in this way. We've set it out this way because we may in the future have different sort of component licenses for the software assurance, but as you present this to the user, you might want to put the individual components but then summarize the software assurance so that it doesn't then give them the opportunity to say, well, actually we only want software assurance for the Office side, we don't want it for the CRM, for example. So you could put this as one line from £44 down to the £41. You could consolidate all that into one line for the 20% software assurance for the previous components that are listed. Okay. Just a few sort of final tips on the quoting. What we specify is when you're talking to the client, talk about things like, do you want the call control, the incoming call control that I showed you yesterday, the transferring of calls, the deferring of calls, etc. The chat side of things, the messaging, the presence. So these are the generic terms that we talk about in terms of, are you interested in that functionality? So that's the basic Go Connect functionality. And then what you're asking then is, okay, well, which applications do you then want to integrate in with, to do the click to dialing and the contact lookup to work with the the shared address book. We do say that the basic Office license is pretty feature rich. That was what I used yesterday to show you the demonstration of the product. It's fairly competitively priced. So we'd like to think that you would quote Go Connect with all of the Panasonic phone systems when you provide your phone system quote. Throw Go Connect in there as part of the actual phone system quote. We put this slide up yesterday, just a reminder for anybody that wasn't on the session yesterday. We've got 3 different websites. The main open website, goconnectcrm.com, is for you and for your clients for general product information and information about Mondigo itself, so everybody can see that, no login required for that. All of our resellers then have access to the 2.4 launch website that does require a login and a password, and on there's various sort of collateral and some training slides, including this presentation and some of the other presentations that we've been doing on the other webinars, and they all have full speaker notes, albeit in English, but they are there for you to use for your own internal training, and also if you want to send those to potential clients, you can do that. But also on the 2.4 launch website, you'll find details of our new Select Partner program. And when you become a Select Partner, you then have access to the Select Partners website as well, which also requires a login and a password. Now, Select Partners have various benefits over and above a normal non-Select Partner reseller. They have access to a lot more training information, training materials, technical guides on the product and marketing collateral. access to full price lists as well. Get a trial version of the pre-released software. There's a demo client that can be used. That was the client that I used yesterday to do the demonstration to you guys. You get an enhanced NFR license. You get to use the Select Partner logo, and for a one-off charge we can also create a branded PC client. So this is the one that normally comes up when you start up the PC client, but we can set up a branded one for you with your own identity on there if you want to. And also Select Partners get access to product promotions. Javier, are you still there? He may have gone off to do some emails. Yeah, that's no problem. Are you still there, Javier?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, can you just remind me, there was a promotion that was on... Yeah, there was a promotion that was on recently. Can you give me an example of what the promotion was? I can't remember what it was off the top.
Okay, you receive Go Connect Attendant license.
That was what it was.
For free, so you can resell and get the full price of it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's worth 400 or 500 quid, I think, isn't it?
I think more.
Yeah, more than that.
550, yeah.
Yeah, 500, nearly 600 pounds. So they're the kind of things that we occasionally put up onto the Select Partner website as well. So, you know, things that you might better use yourself or that you can sell on at full profit. In order to become a Select Partner, the good news is that it's free. The better news is that you can actually do it all online. There's a certification program online, and the way that it works is that to become a Select Partner, your organization has to take 3 multiple choice questionnaires in the area of sales, pre-sales and technical. It doesn't have to be the same person taking all 3 of the modules. It's just an individual that your organization can take each one of those questionnaires. All of the questions in the questionnaires, the answers to those questions are essentially available in the presentations that we've been doing and the presentations that are available on the website. So all the information you need to answer the questions is available on the website itself. And the way that it works is that once you've passed each module, at least one member has passed each module, then you get accreditation in for a 12-month period. And then after the 12 months has expired, the same individual or somebody else in the organization just has to come on again, do the questionnaire again, because obviously the product has moved on. So there may be questions relating to new features brought in the previous year. And then once you've then passed the questionnaire again, then you get the accreditation for the next 12 months. Okay, so it's just bringing the sort of Select Partner, so we know that you know the product that we're asking you to, that you're sort of selling on our behalf. Okay, but then the nice thing is that it's free. And that's pretty much it. So as of yesterday, as we did yesterday, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask after the webinar, something that might crop up and you might sort of think about in a couple of hours' time, then you can email us on webinars@mondigo.com. That's the webinar address for any questions relating specifically to this particular webinar. Going forward, though, if you have any general questions about sales or support, then sales@goconnectcrm.com and support@goconnectcrm.com. They're the general email addresses, but anything particular to this webinar that you want to ask, then just ping us an email on webinars@mondigo.com. Just give everybody just the opportunity if they've got any questions before we leave you. So just any questions, anyone? I can see
I have a question. This is Dario.
Hi, Dario.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I spoke yesterday by email with Javier regarding the sales training. Unfortunately, I was outside the office, so I cannot attend the sales training yesterday. Is it possible to receive a presentation by email or a download from your website and eventually have a short webinar especially for that, because I missed the first part, so I would like to receive also that feedback.
Okay, Javier?
Information.
Okay, Dario, we are recording this. Hi, Dario, how are you?
I'm fine.
That's good. We are recording
weather,
this.
Good weather yesterday in Sicily.
That's wonderful. Here is raining a little bit today, but okay.
Okay.
Dario, we are recording this session, so you will be getting, I don't know when, a link to make it available for you, or for all of you attend this. And additionally, I will be sending you a link so you can go and log in with a password, and you can download all these presentations.
Okay. Because, you know, our problem here is to translate into Italian. Otherwise, our dealer
I do understand.
Yeah.
Don't worry. And you know that you can get my support anytime, so it's no problem.
Yeah, I know that you like to visit our dealers, especially close to the restaurants.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Of course, I like that.
Dario, you can see on the slide now that you can see that for all of the slides we've written quite detailed speaker notes, as you can see on the screen. So pretty much everything that I've said today, obviously you need to translate it into Italian, but you don't need to do too much thinking on this. You can just translate the words and you're good to go with that. So there's some good comprehensive speaker notes there that you can use as the base for your your translation.
Yeah, because basically we need to provide information about features. Then when one of our dealers can sell your application, your software licenses and so on, we can eventually go in details and analyze what they need, what we have to do and so on, like the large project that we have discussed together with Maurizio in the last days, Javier. But basically, we need to improve the knowledge of your application and features in the Italian market. So we need to provide not a long presentation, but a kind of slides presentation in Italian, of course. Kind of manuals about features and so on, because we need to speed up sales in the application side.
Sure. Also, Dario, we're doing the sales presentation that you missed yesterday. We're doing that next week at 2 o'clock on the Monday, 2 p.m. GMT.
When?
So, next Monday at 3 p.m. Italian time. So if you're available then you can come in onto that presentation.
Yeah. I will take a note and try to manage that.
Yeah.
You can invite also the resellers or the dealers that probably can understand a little bit English, so they can just see. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I do understand.
E anche Dario, io parlo un po' italiano, posso parlare in italiano un po'. No è perfetto.
Molto bene.
È possibile che con poco di tempo posso presentare in italiano anche.
Ok.
Siciliano no, ma
Siciliano no, ma faccio fatica anch'io. I also have some difficulties in Sicilian dialect.
Anche io. But it may be slow, but it's something that we could possibly do for you.
Yeah, but guys, we absolutely have to improve that part. It's not your fault. It's our fault that we have very few time to manage a presentation and new feature about application and so on. So Javier knows the situation. We are only two that manage PBX business here. So if you can support us maybe with a open house roadshow like we did in the past, would be, of course, very interesting, not only for your business, but also for our business in terms of telephone systems, if we include also application.
Perfect.
Okay,
something you missed yesterday, Dario, is we actually have a full demonstration running on my PC here. So we actually show you the whole functionality going into the address book, dialing, searching, all that kind of stuff. So we can show you the product in action. It's not just PowerPoint. We can actually show you the product, how it works, and that gives you a much better feel for the product. Abhishek, thank you. I saw your comment as well. I hope to see you next Monday as well.
Okay.
Okay, Tim, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just want to ask a couple of questions, if I may, Phil. First of all, I understand that there's only one type of license for Mobile Go Connect.
Yep.
But where do we get the actual mobile app from for Android and iOS, as the case may be?
Okay, the Android one is from the Google Store.
Yeah. Maybe if you go to the GoConnectCRM.com website, under the mobile. Maybe you can go online right now.
I'm just doing that
Go
right
connect
now.
CRM.
So hopefully you guys can still see this on the
All the
mobile.
information that you need will be here in this website. It's
There
all
we
the
go.
generic, all the general
Are you going
information.
online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you go to Android device,
So my emails are
if you
firing
go
off. Hang on a
down
minute.
there,
There we go.
if you go down,
There we go. So on the Google, on
It's a
the Android
section.
one, you can click on there.
yep.
Where can I download the latest version of? Okay, and it's just on there, is it?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's the link to it. I don't know where the link's going to take you, or somewhere on the Google store probably.
Yeah, I send you there.
Yeah. So it'll
And
send you
it's
there.
called Go Connect Mobile, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, its title is Go Connect Mobile, and then there's another page for the iOS one, and there should be a link down the bottom there to the App Store. Okay, so depending
And
which
they're
one you're
free?
interested in, they are indeed.
Yeah, they are free, both of them.
Okay, understand.
So obviously you can even download those now. And sorry, go on, Tim.
Secondly, where can we get a full price list from?
Javier, that's obviously on the Select Partner website, but what are
Yeah.
they doing?
Or from your distributor.
Okay.
I can try to talk here internally with Rob so we can send you something. But usually you have to go through your distributor or be a selected partner
Okay.
to be able to see the price
No
list.
problem. We're using Nymus at the moment, so I'll contact them.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
perfect, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have all the
Also,
full
can
price.
you just do something for me? Rob is doing a WebEx for one of my clients on Thursday morning this week,
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
which I just need to discuss with him. Can you get him to give me a call this afternoon or tomorrow morning?
Okay, I will talk to him in a little bit. Okay.
Did you laugh then, Phil, or was that me imagining it?
I wasn't laughing.
Second, sir?
You weren't laughing.
No way. I'm reading Abhishek's chats that he's been sending to me. Sorry.
All right, okay, fair enough. You know, it concerned me a little bit when I said Rob's doing a WebEx for one of my clients, and I thought you started laughing.
Yeah, no, that was
I will talk to Rob today, Tim.
It was what?
I will
You're okay
talk
to
to Rob.
yeah.
So yeah, and I will him.
yeah. A question
Let him
from question from Abhishek. Javier, can you just clarify? Are the videos that we've recorded going to be available to the guys that were on the sessions yesterday?
I don't know when they will be available, but I don't know the case of Abhishek. Abhishek is from Australia,
Yeah.
and it's a different process with them. So I
Right,
don't know
okay.
if those videos are completely available for them, or we will be doing a different videos or a different webinar sessions with them.
Right. Okay. Because
So
Abhishek's
I have to
mentioning.
double check with Rob, Abhishek.
Right, because he's mentioned he's doing a webinar for his dealers in Australia, so and he'd like to
Yeah.
prepare for it. So obviously we can deal with that separately. Abhishek,
Yeah,
I think.
I know.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Abhishek, I know right now that we have different sales and pre-sales slides, so I will be talking to Rob today and to see when we can make you those available to you, make them available to you.
Okay, that's good stuff. Right, I think we've been around everybody. Any more questions before we let you go? Everybody happy?
No, it's fine for me. Thank you,
Good
Phil.
stuff. Okay, thanks again for your time.